Hi y'all, welcome back to the Daily AMG and welcome to my top 14 books of 2018. I have more than 14 favorite books. I tried to compile a list of 18, realized 4 of them I don't have physical books for, and I just can't care anymore because I really wanted to do too much. I was just doing too much, and I need to realize when I'm doing too much to just rein it in, put the brakes on, because honestly, I make it harder for myself than it ought to be. So, if you watched my goals video, you saw in that video that I read 130 books thus far in 2018. I am hoping to finish 1, maybe 2 more books, and before tomorrow. Well, I have tomorrow. The rest of today is Sunday, so I have until the stroke of midnight tomorrow. So, we shall see what happens, what becomes of that. But I wanted to go ahead and show you my top 14 books of 2018 because those are the ones I have physical copies of. And that's just how I'm rolling with this thing right now. Alright, so first one is actually a book that became an instant favorite, an instant top 5 favorite. He holds like the number 4 spot on my top 5 list of all time. And that is Neil Gaiman's American Gods. There is so much to be said about this book. Obviously, it is a chunker, but honestly, it flies by because it is so captivating and so engrossing. It is about basically if America had like mythical gods, but it's so much more than that, but it is incredible. It's just fascinating, so fascinating. Neil Gaiman, I read a few Neil Gaiman this year, and honestly they all could have been on this list, but this one just instantly became one of my most favorite books, and I cannot recommend this enough. Alright, the next book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was a book club pick, and it was my book club pick, and I loved it, obviously. This is now holds the number 2 spot on, or spot, one of those, on my favorite books of all time list. This book is incredible. You follow a group of Greek students who murder their friends. So it is a whodunit, not a whodunit, because you know right off the bat that one of them is dead. You just don't know why he was murdered. But it is, oh man, it is brilliant. It is captivating. It will absolutely take your breath away. If you have not gotten to this, for whatever reason, like me, I had this on my list for so long, especially after reading The Goldfinch. And honestly, The Goldfinch is my number 3 favorite book of all time, and this surpassed it. It's just incredible. It's haunting and hilarious. It is of itself a Greek tragedy. It is so good. Donna Tartt is truly my absolute favorite author. So far, she can do no wrong, and I absolutely adore what she has done. Alright, next we have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This book is unlike anything that I would have picked up. And let me just say, I would not have picked this up based upon that atrocious movie. I'm so glad that I read this months before the movie came out, but I did read it because, well, I live in Oklahoma currently, and it takes place in Oklahoma. Well, like he's in the stacks in Oklahoma. It's in a futuristic, not necessarily unattainable America. It's very much desolate and destructive. And so we follow our main character, Wade Watts, and he plays virtual reality. Everything is in virtual reality in the Oasis. And the creator of the Oasis passes away, but he runs a competition for everyone who can get all of the Easter eggs that he has planted within his virtual reality world. If you go through all of the steps and get through all of the levels and collect all of the Easter eggs, then you win like his bazillion-dollar fortune. And it is so... It's so well written that it was one of my favorite books of 2018. It's in my top 10 favorite books I've ever read. It is so intricate and incredible, and it has so many 80s references, which are fabulous. They were fabulous. It was just so fantastically done. And I'm worried because they've said for a while now that he has a second one coming out. It's Goodreads official. There is a number 2 coming out, or at least it just has like a placeholder on Goodreads. And I'm so worried because I don't want the world building and the character arc, and just to see Wade go through so many. It was just a whirlwind. It was truly a whirlwind, and it was truly awe-inspiring, the world that Ernest Cline has. The worlds, because you have the America that is in this book, and then you also have the Oasis, which is incredible, and it was just so fascinating and gripping. Like, you will just be like laughing and then terrified and then like on the edge of your seat. And honestly, if you haven't read the book, please read the book and promise me you'll never see the movie. Pretend as if the movie never existed, please. Alright, next up we have one that I will gladly tell you to go watch the adaptations. And that is Dumplin'. Oh my gosh, Dumplin' by Julie Murphy. This is now on Netflix. They did a fabulous, fantastic, awesome job. This is about a girl, Dumplin', whose mama she's like the director of the local beauty pageant. And anywhere where beauty pageants were like a big thing, like people be putting their babies in the beauty pageants, and then like older people are still doing beauty pageants. Like, if you understand that life, like, this is hysterical, just the whole beauty pageant aspect of it. But really, there was a part, I mean, so basically, I don't want to give everything away, but Dumplin' lost her aunt, and she is what society deems overweight. Her aunt was overweight. They said that they alluded to her passing away due to complications with being overweight. But she basically raised her. Her aunt basically raised her because her mom was always doing beauty pageant stuff, and that was just not the girls that Dumplin' was friends with. And her aunt really instilled in her this huge love of Dolly Parton, which, yes, girl. And there's just so much love and heart in this. And there was a passage that made me just burst into tears so Dumplin' and her friends, as a way to like revolt, they enter into this beauty pageant. Just as a way to be like, anybody can be here. I'm free to be here. It's a free country. And one girl was like, went up to her and she was like, "You're so brave, Dumplin'." And she's like, "I don't want this to be brave. I want this to be normal." And I was like, sobbing, because everyone can relate that to something within their lives where someone has told them, "Oh, you're so brave," but you're like, "I want this to be normal. This is just a normal thing for me." So there was so much that I resonated with this. And of course, just her love of Dolly and all the Dolly references. And honestly, go watch it on Netflix. It's fabulous. Netflix is killing it. Killing it. They are killing it. Oh my goodness. Another top 10 favorite of life. So this is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This follows a group of Shakespeare students in college that are a part of a murder, and one of them takes the fault for it. And it basically starts 10 years, basically starts current day, where the lead detective on the case says, "Okay, like, tell me what really happened, because I know you're just taking the fault for this." And then it goes back 10 years later, and it goes over their whole like last semester in college and all of the things that transpired. And I am telling you, the exact same way that The Secret History was a Greek tragedy, this was a Shakespeare tragedy. It was just so good, so well written. And if you love Shakespeare, it just has all of those. It's done in acts and instead of chapters, and like, oh my gosh, it's just so well done. And it is, I guess, technically YA. A lot of people say it's like the YA version of The Secret History, and I can totally see that being the case. It deals with two very literary aspects and puts very academic thinking group of students together, and there's a murder. So sure, but they're vastly different also. And oh gosh, this ending will slay you for real. It's all so good. It's so good. And this is one that I read in one sitting because I just could not put it down. I could not go to bed not knowing what happens to these people that I like really put a lot of love into. Alright, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This took me a long time to read this. I'm a massive Harry Potter fan, and you know how negative people are the loudest? So I only heard negative things about this. I only heard that it was like a rework of Harry Potter and that it was not done great and that it was blah, 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 blah. And then I met Rainbow Rowell. Did I have this one signed? I don't think so. No, I didn't because I hadn't read it yet. But anyway, so I met Rainbow Rowell and I picked up all of her books because I had her sign some of my favorite ones, and then I just wanted to have her complete collection in my collection. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like dying. I wanted to have her complete collection in my collection. So I picked up Carry On, and then I was like, it's the only Rainbow Rowell I haven't read. Okay. Another thing that I hated this book so much that so I hated Fangirl. And I know. Maybe I need to reread it after reading Carry On. But Carry On is Rainbow Rowell's version of the Simon and Baz story. This is not, what was that girl's name? Catherine. Catherine's not right. Y'all are yelling at me. What's her name? What was her name? Kath. Okay. So Kath wrote fan fiction of Simon and Baz from this. Okay, so I would like to go back and read Fangirl. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't hate it, but it is so beloved that, like, even to say I did give it 4 or 5 stars. But honestly, I don't read a lot of YA. I'm not the YA guru here, but I love this. I gave this 5 stars. I would love to reread this like over and over and over again. I cannot wait for Wayward Son, and I absolutely love this so much. So this is about a school, and you do have magic, but you also have vampires, and that's fantastic because, you know, that's my favorite thing. And you have the school setting and the classroom setting and the learning and about life and love and friendship and everything. It does give you those Harry Potter vibes, but in a totally different way because it's a totally different story. Totally different story. And it is everything. It is so delightful, and it is so wonderfully written, and I'm so glad it's in the world, and I cannot wait for the second one. Alright, so next up we have The Innocent Man by John Grisham, and I actually just finished this. I'm going to put that down because it is like heavily reflective. I am so glad that I read this. This is a book club pick for January. So it's not even January 2019 yet, but my husband and I read this. It was actually a reread for him. We listened to the audio on our way to and from Texas. We just went home for Christmas, and oh my gosh, we had such good discussion and such good like OMG moments with this book. So this is about 2 different murders that took place in Ada, Oklahoma, which is in Oklahoma where we live. I mean, my husband grew up here, and he actually read this when it came out, which was like early 2000s. And so you have these 2 cases, these 2 murder cases in a teeny tiny small town where nothing like that ever happens. And you have the most botched police work I've ever seen. And it's just incredible. And it's incredible how John Grisham got involved, and the Netflix docuseries is fabulous. It's so well done. John Grisham is a part of it, and it's incredible. It's terrifying to see how our judicial system can be. It's terrifying to see how blame can be placed on someone just because, oh, they're trash. You know, I mean, that was basically kind of how it is. Oh, that guy lives right next door and he's a hoodlum. Of course it was him. Lock him up. Like, oh, it's terrifying. And it's such an important read. So gripping, haunting. It's haunting. And then to watch the docuseries, and you actually see the courtroom cases, and you see the testimonial tapes, and you see these men. I can't even begin to tell you how. Okay, I'm spending too much on this. Go read it. Just go read it. That's The Innocent Man by John Grisham. All right, let's see here. Next up is a book that I haven't taken the price tag off. Oh, whatever. So I found this at TJ Maxx for like 17 bucks. And it's like pretty brand spanking new. I think it came out, the very beginning of 2018. Honestly, if you have not read Whiskey in a Teacup, and you don't even have to be Southern to get it. Reese Witherspoon is she's just so inclusive and so encompassing that she's like, come one, come all. I'll show you how to be Southern. It's fun. And the stories that she tells, the recipes, the hot roller tutorial, which is like exactly how like my mama did her rollers. It made me want to get hot rollers again. And yeah, oh my gosh, it's just so good. And just her family and her love of women and how her grandmas shaped her. It's so good. This really just touched me in ways I can't even begin to express. It just, especially for a homesick Texan, this was exactly what I needed. And I have gone back multiple times and just read short little chapters or just little, I don't know. She just does the cutest little things, and it just makes me happy. Makes me so happy. And it's just so well done. And she talks about books and her love of reading in there, so that's just everything. All right, sticking on the nonfiction train. Next up is Hungry Heart by Jennifer Weiner. I love Jennifer Weiner. I read a lot of her like in high school and right out of high school. When I first got married, I read a lot of Jennifer Weiner. That was kind of like the In Her Shoes days. And she writes literary fiction, and she is just really, she's like the Liane Moriarty before Liane Moriarty, actually. Like, she writes a lot of that same kind of female dynamics, and this is her memoir, and it goes into her writing all of her books, where she was at in her life during the writing of those books. There have been tragedies and there have been setbacks, and she just writes in such a compelling way that you are just wholly engrossed in what her what she's saying. And especially for someone who has read a lot of her books, it was really interesting to me to know where she was at in her life, or how something inspired a character or a situation, and her dynamic with her family and building her family. And it's so good. Especially if you love author memoirs. I love author memoirs. And this is up there. This is up there with like Stephen King's On Writing. I know they're totally different, but they're that same, like, come on, we're diving into my brain, hold on. And it was just so inspiring and so compelling. Okay, oh man, I think this was the first book I read in 2018, and that is An American Marriage by Tahari Jones. Oh my gosh. Talk about the justice system. Talk about being wrongfully accused. This follows a man who is wrongfully accused for rape, and he goes to prison. And then when he comes out, his wife, his life, his family, everything has changed. It is so heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. I was in tears in multiple spots of this, and it goes back and forth between the husband and the wife, and their points of view. And so you know why she. I don't want to give too much away, and obviously I could never do it justice, because this is such an incredible, important book, and it's just all the hype. It deserved all the hype. It needs more hype. It needs to be read over and over again. This is such an important, phenomenal book. Next up, we have another book that is on my top 10 books of life, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, if somehow you have not gotten your hands on this, this is really taken off. Thank goodness. It is just so phenomenal. This is historical fiction in a way I've never seen historical fiction written. And it is so loosely based on some of Hollywood's most famous scandals. The way that Taylor Jenkins Reid did this was so incredible. Honestly, like, this is just one of those things. If you love old Hollywood, or if you love historical fiction, this will not disappoint. And the twists and the turns are just up there. It's phenomenal. It's so good. Okay, this might have been the first book I read. This was our January 2018 book club pick, so I'm not sure exactly when I read this within the month. If I read American... Okay. Y'all don't care about that. So, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng is one of the best family dynamic books I've read in a long time. She really captured each individual character in such a way that you always knew who you were reading about. You never really had to be like, who was that again that said that? I absolutely love this. This was just an incredible, heart-wrenching story about family. What it means to be a family, what it means to choose a family, what it means to be somebody else's family. And it was just so good. It was so good. Next up is One Day in December. This is by Josie Silver. And oh my goodness, if you have not picked this up yet, in the month of December, you have a day left. This is phenomenal. It will not take you long to read this, because it is so quick. It is so fast-paced. It is such a page-turner. The main character, Laurie, is getting on the bus, and she sees Jack, who is getting on another bus just like right there by each other, and they lock eyes, and it is love at first sight. It is instantaneous. You're the one for me, love at first sight. And then their buses drive away. So Lori is like seized with this overwhelming knowledge that that is the love of her life. That is her soulmate, end of time love of her life. So she spends a year looking for Jack. And then one day her best friend and roommate Sarah brings Jack to her apartment as Sarah's love of her life. And as soon as they see each other, Jack and Lori, they know you're the person. You're that person that I locked eyes with and had like lightning bolts run through my body. So it takes the course over 10 years, and it is just, it is so good. It's so, like, you will just be like heart palpitations. Like, it is, if Nora were alive, this would be the next Nora Ephron blockbuster. It is everything you ever want in a rom-com that has grit, that has substance. You know, those are the things that I like the most. I want you to like figure out life and love and it not be like happily ever after the end. It's just, oh, it's so good. It's just so good. Yeah, one day in December, pick it up. Okay, and last but certainly not least is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. I don't know if a book quite broke my heart the way that this book did. I absolutely devoured this book. And it's a chunker. It's got to be like 600 and something pages. I love this, and I cannot recommend this enough. This is a little bit of historical fiction, as in it has dual timelines, and you definitely have that like roundabout of current day and everything kind of, you have a modern day ending, and you start in 1945 Dublin, and it basically follows the life of Cyril Avery. Cyril was given up for adoption as a baby, and the Averys adopted him, and they are a very well-to-do family, but his entire life they told him, you're not a real Avery, we basically just saved you from what could have been, and basically, you know, just appreciate this grand life that you sort of get to be a part of. And he goes to school, he meets Julian, and Julian becomes his best friend, but also his life. I mean, he basically shows him that there is so much more than what he knows. What he's been raised around is not everything. Like, he can be anything that he wants to be, and he just is such a beacon of light for him to know a whole different way of living. And it goes all the way up until like the early 2000s, and it is so gripping. It's a chunker, but honestly, you will just fall into this book and not want to let go. And it is very epic. It's very sweeping, the time frame, because obviously you're from the 40s to the 2000s. And you also follow Cyril's mom, a little bit of her storyline thrown in there as well, and that's kind of that historical fiction element. It's incredible, truly incredible. And I believe that this won the 2017 Book of the Month awards. I think this was the top book of the year for Book of the Month Club. So, rightfully so, it is incredible. So, those are the top 14 books that my stack just fell. Well, at least it kind of went like, zing, like, it didn't go like, but anyways. my top 14 books of 2018. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what some of your favorite books were of 2018 that maybe I need to pick up in 2019. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye, y'all.